at Bayer, where we have the ambition to reach 50 million people in underserved communities per year and enable access to essential vitamins and minerals. Okay. So how do we do that? We did the research to understand what are the barriers that prevent individuals from really accessing and consuming those essential vitamins and minerals that we just heard play a significant role in good health. Yeah. Barrier number one is the financial and physical access to vitamins and minerals themselves. Yes. In whatever shape or form they take. We just heard a lot about the importance of diverse diets, the potential for fortification, as well as the critical role of supplementation to make sure that the nutritional needs of today can be covered. Barrier number two is education. And part of what we're doing today is also to continue raising awareness about the importance of those macronutrients. What are they? It's not easy because you can't see them. Where do they come from? And how can I integrate them in my daily life? And finally, we are trying to enable a broader environment where we can all join forces to try and really move the needle together. And this is our advocacy part, trying to move policies, programs, corporate commitments, as well as investments across the different organizations, including development agencies, to put nutrition at the center of good health.
Nutrition really is, critical. I mean, at this point, like you said, center of good health. And what you said, awareness really is the key, I think, because people don't get to know how it's impacting their body, like the doctors explained. Edward, I want to ask you, what do you think the role of community-based initiatives? Tell us at the work that Reach 52 does. What has your findings been?
We've been working with Bayer in both UP and Karnataka, really looking to understand the nutritional needs, and insights from the communities themselves, surveying about 40,000 households, as well as the health workforce. And the insights were really quite staggering. I mean, the first one that jumps out, linking directly to awareness, was just the fact that a majority of people thought they had the right levels of nutrition. The perception is that I am okay. The perception is that my diet is good enough. And when we actually looked at the data, it was in 87% and 75% in UP and Karnataka respectively did not have the right dietary diversity, did not have the right intake. So I'll pause there, but the first really big insight was just this huge gap between that, perception around my diet and the actual reality of the dietary diversity and nutritional supplementation that you should be having and should be needing.
I think, Sandeep, that's why I want to come to you. What he said, obviously body mass index, or how a person is, working, the productivity, it impacts the economy of a country. And that's why I want to ask you, what are the tools that Bayer is using when it comes to, dealing with malnutrition? Are you all, targeting intervention, education, or advocacy?
Okay, so firstly, we deal with one aspect of malnutrition, which is the micronutrient deficiency, also called hidden hunger. I think it is important for us to know that over 1 billion people in India suffer from micronutrient deficiency across age groups, across sex, across regions, etc., etc. And I'll just start with the advocacy part first. Sure. When we started a business, when Bayer Consumer Health India started a business, when we opened our shutters about 4 years back, the first thing we did was to understand the extent of the micronutrient deficiency problem. And at that point in time, we did a survey amongst the doctors in India, amongst over 2,000 doctors in India, where we basically asked them what is the extent of the problem, right? So if, as an Indian, if I take a completely balanced diet, okay, will I be able to get 100% of my macronutrient requirements for the day? And the answer was a vehement no. Even with a perfectly balanced diet, you are most likely to get just about 70% of all the micronutrient which are required for you for that particular day. So that was a big eye-opener for us. We have then shared that study in the public domain. That study is being used by various companies, various organizations to formulate the public health strategies as well. When it comes to targeted interventions, the multivitamin supplement that we have in a portfolio and the B-complex product that we have in a portfolio is the most affordable multivitamin and B-complex in this country, right? So that is our current contribution when it comes to accessibility for everyone. So we have launched targeted products. The other thing that we will move into, given the diversity of India, is to try and understand which regions are deficient in which specific micronutrients.
That's very critical.
Yeah. So we will be looking at that as well to launch products which cater to a particular region itself. And when it comes to region, we've already identified some underserved communities in India. And like Edward was saying earlier, we have started a work in Karnataka, in rural Karnataka and in rural UP with Reach 52 and with Edward's organization, where we are first trying to understand what is the extent of this problem in rural India, and we've done this survey. So I think nothing in this country can move without a proper education, without proper awareness being generated for the consumers, for the product, for the people, regarding the extent of this problem and regarding the fact that people really need to take their own care. They really need to adopt self-care.
We'll take a really short break. When we come back, we have our panelists with us and we also have Dr. Madan with us. So stay tuned, keep watching.
हम यहाँ मौजूद हैं अंतर्राष्ट्रीय काइट फेस्टिवल में.
This year we have participation from 47 countries. Kite Festival has a Guinness Book of World Record also. Gujarat is making almost around 70% of the kites of the country. We had 17.5 crore tourists visiting Gujarat in a year. So we want people to come to Gujarat to experience the richness of culture, heritage and have an experiential tourism.
ਸਰਕਾਰੀ ਸਕੂਲਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਸ਼ਾਨਦਾਰ ਬੱਸਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਦੇਵਾਂਗੇ ਤਾਂ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਬੱਸਾਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਵੀ ਜਾ ਸਕਣ, ਘਰੇ ਵੀ ਪਹੁੰਚਾ ਸਕਣ.
In the state of Punjab, under the dynamic leadership of Chief Minister Bhagwant Singh Mann, government schools are being transformed with modern facilities and free quality education. Taking another bold step, the Bhagwant Mann government is now providing new school buses for students.
GPS ਲੱਗਿਆ ਹੋਊਗਾ, ਮਾਪਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਮੋਬਾਈਲ ਤੋਂ ਪਤਾ ਲੱਗ ਜਾਊਗਾ ਕਿ ਸਾਡੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਵਾਲੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਬੱਸ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਕਿੱਥੇ ਪਹੁੰਚ ਗਈ ਤੇ ਕਿੱਥੋਂ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਪਿਕ ਕਰਨਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉੱਥੋਂ ਜਾ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ. ਲੇਟੈਸਟ ਟੈਕਨੋਲੋਜੀ ਲੱਗੀ ਹੋਊਗੀ.
In the first batch, these buses will benefit over 20,000 students, ensuring safe and comfortable commutes. This is not just transportation, this is a promise of progress and opportunity for every child. This is the spirit of a new Punjab, a Punjab where education drives a brighter tomorrow.
ਪਹਿਲੇ ਬੈਚ ਵਾਸਤੇ 20,000 ਬੱਚੇ ਦਾ ਅਸੀਂ ਪ੍ਰਬੰਧ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ. ਸੋ ਜੇ ਨੀਅਤ ਸਾਫ਼ ਹੋਵੇ ਕੋਈ ਨਾ ਕੋਈ ਤਾਂ ਤਰੀਕਾ ਨਿਕਲੇ ਆਉਂਦਾ.
This is New Punjab, this is Rangla Punjab.
Kind attention, please. Delhi Election Metro 2025 is arriving on people's platform.
Please mind the gap.
BJP or AAP, who will get to the Delhi Secretariat station?
दरवाजे बाईं तरफ खुलेंगे.
Who will Delhi voters open the victory doors for? And who will be shown the door? Can the BJP throw AAP's victory run off track? Or will it be Kejriwal's ticket to win again? Can Congress take the election metro to revival? We will track it all for you. Delhi's decision destination.
Doors will open on the left.
Stay tuned to NDTV for mega metro poll coverage.
Co-presented by Intelligence Meets Art with Motorola Edge 50 Pro.
Mama must be missing us, na?
Let's take you for a spin, give me one day. Feel the itch under my skin, it's a one day. You believe it when you see it being done, hey!
Anil Kapoor.
Proud of all the officers here.
Kiara Advani.
Welcome back. We're talking about how important it is to prioritize nutrition, how as individuals and communities we can foster a healthier future. Joining us now also is Dr. Rakesh Verma, Principal Consultant, Health Ministry, Government of India, former Additional DGHS, Government of India. So I want to ask you, how can individuals incorporate essential nutrients in their diet, especially when they're trying to deal with micronutrient deficiency?
See, one must realize that their nutrients are required for the body as a machinery to move. And the major nutrients are carbohydrates, fat, proteins, water and air. But there are certain micronutrients which are very essential for the life, and they can be divided in two groups. One is major micronutrients and the others is minor. Among the major micronutrients are sodium, potassium, calcium, phosphorus and sulfur.
Yeah.
And the minor ones are selenium, iron, chromium, copper, etc. And all these are essentially required. When they take the major nutrients like carbohydrate and fats, they need to be converted into energy molecule for the body, which body can consume. Now these micronutrients are required to facilitate that process. They are catalyst.
Okay.
They are like a bridge. If you want to cross from Delhi to Noida, you take a D&D bridge. So those bridges are required in the form of vitamins, in the form of micronutrients, which are essential for life.
Okay.
If we don't have, then as much as 23 to 24% of mortality was attributed in the geriatric persons due to the absence or lack of micronutrients.
Wow.
And in one study that was done in 2016, that's about 8 years back, they said they impact the GDP of this country by about 8% negativity. So this has got impact not only on individual but also on the society and on nation also. And the things percolate down from individual health to society's responsibility as well as nation's wealth also. So one has to be very cautious, alert and obedient for consumption and of micronutrients in the diet.
Dr. Madan, as an expert, in the field, when it comes to nutrition, in the significance of micronutrient supplementation, when we're talking about managing NCDs, the non-communicable diseases, and we see the number is going up, what are some of the most critical micronutrients that are often lacking in modern diets? If you can quickly tell us that, please.
India is having an epidemic of, the non-communicable diseases. We are the world's capital for diabetes and all the cardiometabolic risk factors. But I think, the story begins with curtailing the level of inflammation in the body. So the micronutrients which are really needed by us are the ones which have a strong, potent antioxidant action. So among those micronutrients, you have vitamin C, which is very important, zinc, which is very important, plus so that is something which brings down the levels of inflammation, because it works at the enzymic level. It works on enzymic system, and that's where these micronutrients, especially these micro minerals, become part of coenzymes and enzymes, and they facilitate the action of those antioxidant enzymes. Besides this, I think I already mentioned about vitamin D. Vitamin D deficiency must be checked, because very often it goes unattended, and we have found that vitamin D deficiency can precipitate insulin resistance and can lead to pre-diabetes and then apparent diabetes. Among other things, I think calcium and magnesium and potassium, especially out of the three, magnesium, potassium, we consider them as cardioprotective macronutrients, because magnesium is needed for the muscle contraction, potassium is very much needed for muscle agility, and maintaining the magnesium and potassium levels in the body again becomes very crucial in terms of maintaining the endothelial, that is the inner lining of the blood vessel function. Yes, so each one of them has a very, very important role, and it gets connected with the non-communicable diseases.
Okay, thank you for explaining that. Sandeep, if I can just quickly come to you here, Bayer has been looking at the link between good nutrition and productivity. We've spoken about it as well. What has the research really shown, and what solution is Bayer bringing on the table?
We did a study which was called the fatigue survey. So we wanted to understand the correlation between nutrition and fatigue, and to also understand the extent of the fatigue problem in India. And the results were very startling. We conducted the study amongst 25 to 45 age group workforce of this nation across multiple cities in this country. We figured out that 85% of the people, 85% of the adult workforce in this country wakes up fatigued. So you are waking up, okay, and you are waking up fatigued. Almost 80% of the people felt drowsiness throughout the day, felt sleepy throughout their work hours. And the even more startling fact over there, Ambika, was that when we segmented this study between 25 to 35 and 35 to 45, the younger age group actually felt more fatigue, and the younger age group actually felt more drowsy through the day than the slightly older age group.
Which you always imagine it'll be the other way around.
Exactly, which you would always
should
be the other way around ideally. But the other thing, other very eye-opening aspect on this survey was that, like Edward was saying earlier, most of these people felt that their diets were perfect. So only, I think, less than 15% of the people actually felt that their diets had something to do with it. So not only is there a problem, there is also a very little connectivity between the actual source of the problem to the problem amongst the Indian consumers. So what we are trying to do is to firstly raise the awareness that if you have a problem of fatigue, if you think that you were able to do things earlier, now you're not able to do, all your tasks through the day, and then you're attributing it to what? You're attributing it to the fact that I'm getting older. That may not be the case. Figure out what is the reason for you not being able to do all the tasks easily like you were able to do.
Edward, if I can come to you, we've spoken about the fatigue report. Also, the new, you all did a collaboration, Bayer and Reach 52 in 2023. What were the key findings of the nutrient gap report? If you can tell us that briefly.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, as already mentioned, a lot of people felt they did have the right level of nutrition. In reality, 75 to 87% weren't. And then if we look at the people that didn't have the right levels of nutrition, that weren't taking supplementation, that didn't have that dietary diversity, what we've heard about already, almost came to life. More fatigue. We saw links with chronic disease. We saw even links to mental health issues, were more common in the people that didn't have the right levels of nutrition or supplementation. Even some startling things that stood out to me and to some of our colleagues and people involved in the report. People that didn't have the right nutrition and weren't taking supplementation, twice as likely as to take a day off work.
Okay.
So whether you're a day wage labourer, whether you work in a tech firm or a government office,
so it's impacting your daily life in some way or the other.
You're twice as likely to have a day off, for whatever reason it might be. But that jumped out. But positively, what we did see, working with health workers, doing education, running these events, by investing in awareness, education, knowledge, people start to take action. So we saw positive action. We saw people starting to try and improve their dietary diversity, so that by making people aware, raising the education levels, positive change can happen.
So once awareness is there, positive change can happen. I think that's the best thing to hear. And I think awareness really begins with us. Thank you all so much for coming, sharing your expertise. It's really been a pleasure to have you with us. So next week, we will uncover the transformative potential of technology in revolutionizing self-care and nutrition, and explore innovative solutions to create a healthier, more sustainable future for all of us. Thank you so much for watching.
Well, I'm in al-Murtada. This is one of the worst hit areas. When disaster strikes, NDTV World brings you exclusive on-the-ground reports straight from the heart of the action.
A neighborhood in Los Angeles that has been devastated by fire.
I just received an emergency alert extreme, which has come on my phone.
Stay tuned for NDTV World's in-depth coverage as we bring you the real stories from Los Angeles.
This is the al-Murtada area, and there are still fires and there's a lot of smoke in the area. These houses completely gutted.
This is reporting that matters only on NDTV World.
Mahakumbh, the festival of faith. The world's biggest spiritual festival, the divine dip at the spiritual Sangam, a sacred confluence of faith, culture and heritage. NDTV's mega coverage of the Mega Fest. NDTV at Mahakumbh 2025.
Kind attention, please. Delhi Election Metro 2025 is arriving on People's Platform. Please mind the gap. BJP or AAP, who will get to the Delhi Secretariat station?
दरवाजे बाईं तरफ खुलेंगे.
Who will Delhi voters open the victory doors for? And who will be shown the door? Can the BJP throw AAP's victory run off track? Or will it be Kejriwal's ticket to win again? Can Congress take the election metro to revival? We will track it all for you. Delhi's decision destination.
Doors will open on the left.
Stay tuned to NDTV for Mega Metro poll coverage.
The future of infrastructure, the future of multi-nodal connectivity, the future of integrated rail, road and air transport. The future is here. Witness groundbreaking innovations and game-changing ideas at the Future Summit on 27 January, exclusively on the NDTV network.
I've been reporting on all issues, big and small, from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of Maximum City is infectious. I bring in that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti is also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
Anil Kapoor.
Proud of all the officers and
Kiara Advani. Sonu Sood.
आज मुझे मौका मिला आपके साथ जुड़ने का.
Vijay Devarakonda.
We are Indians.
Republic Day Special. Best of Jai Jawan, only on NDTV 24/7.
Well, I'm in Al-Murtada. This is one of the worst hit areas. When disaster strikes, NDTV World brings you exclusive on-the-ground reports straight from the heart of the action.
A neighborhood in Los Angeles that has been devastated by fire.
I just received. The World Economic Forum, among several issues, has looked at the future of artificial intelligence. And one of the key issues with AI and its induction around the world is skilling. Do we have the skills to adopt the new technology? The technology is moving at phenomenal speed. Joining us now, the Minister Jayant Chaudhary. He looks at skilling. Thanks very much, Jayant, for being with us. We have to embrace AI, don't we? I mean, it's not an option for us. And yet skilling becomes so very important. How exactly are you looking at the entire issue of skilling linked to job generation?
I think we've already embraced it. Yeah. And we're actually one of the world leaders, even in terms of policy, the way it has been framed. We're trying to make all the right moves, get all the pieces on the board, so to speak. So we have a AI mission, which is trying to engage deeper with the higher education institutions, enable research, create a number of labs in our tier 2, tier 3 cities as well. And there's grants, there's fellowships being offered. They're working with the institutions, scientific institutions that we currently have in India. And some of the players who are trying to innovate and build startups and build layers based on AI. Right. Skilling, as you know, is something that always needs to keep retooling, reinvesting in the infra, in the curriculum, in the training pedagogies, so that it's always cutting edge. So that's the mandate. Already, we have the world's second largest workforce, which is, you could call them AI ready, or you could call them they understand AI, or they're already using AI tools.
I suppose the concern in a country like ours, and you would know this best given your own background, is that we have an agrarian economy at one level. We've got people who work on the basis of labor. When we introduce concepts like AI, there is a sense of fear that the jobs which I have done for generations, my family has done as farmers, as those who are less skilled and less educated, those jobs may evaporate. How would you respond to this concern?
On agriculture, 1,000 crores has been allocated to set up a center of excellence. IIT Ropar is the nodal organization. And we must understand Indians are perhaps the best at adapting to technology and using it. The kind of use cases that have emerged from our innovation in DPIs, the kind of social services and social public good that has come through these technological platform interventions is being watched and appreciated globally. We can do our banking on our mobile phone. 90 million users have access to the lowest data cost in the world. So they're all comfortable with it. Let's not assume that they will not be able to adapt.
Right.
The children of farmers are very, very savvy, and they want to connect with the market, with the global market, and become service providers. So there's immense potential.
In terms of skilling itself, which is a national priority, we keep talking about our demographic dividend, the fact that we are the youngest country in the world. We have a target 2047 to become a developed nation. How important is skilling towards achieving that objective?
Skilling is, it's like a wicket keeper. I mean, if we drop a catch, you'll say, what is skilling doing? Which is what industry keeps saying, right? If there's a skill gap. But the thing is, it's a continuous process. There will always be skill gaps as the industry is so dynamic, so fluid, pace of change is so high. What used to take 20 years and rolling out in the whole world market today takes a matter of 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah.
So I think skilling is the most important priority. It's a national priority. Prime Minister's pet subject.
Yeah.
He loves it.
Yeah.
In fact, informally, whenever he sits with me and other ministers, he keeps stressing on how we have to work together, and that skilling is his number one priority. Through NDTV, I'd like to make an announcement on some of the AI initiatives that have come through our engagement with Davos.
Yes.
So yesterday, I met Nick Clegg with Meta, day before, in fact. And yesterday, we've done a launch of the prototype SIA. It's an AI interface built for Skill India Digital Hub, which is our India part of India Stack, our DPI. Skill India Assistant is the name. So that will make it a very immersive journey for anyone who comes, uses our platform, so they can understand what are the courses available for them, which is appropriate learning pathway to use.
That's fantastic. But when it comes to skilling, something which we've not done very much in our country is vocational training. You and I have been educated in schools over here. Many people colleges over here. We aren't trained for technical skills. For example, a car mechanic, fills an indispensable role, right? Everybody requires a car mechanic. Why is that car mechanic trained on the job? Why isn't he or she given that training in an institute? How do we need to work on that?
There's the countries that we are here in Switzerland, some of other European countries like Germany and Denmark, they've had a long tradition of vocational training. And it's a dual track system, really. Even Singapore, where at a very young age from school, then they either choose academics or they choose more applied sciences. In India, through national education policy, we are trying to actually integrate both of them. And I think that's the right approach, looking at India's current ecosystem, our legacy systems, and the scale at which we are working. We have 250 million young children in schools. We are already scaling every year about 2.5 to 3 million people in the short-term and longer-term courses.
But the numbers are still small compared to the population we have. So,
yeah, but we have a huge footprint. We have 15,000 ITIs. They're there in every state and every nook and cranny. We're trying to revitalize that network. So 60,000 crores, which translates to $1.25 billion, is going to be spent so that there's a better connectivity between local industry and those institutions. They really take ownership of those ITIs, and we're working along with the states in partnership with the states to roll that out.
Yeah.
So we're going to get cutting-edge equipment, the new courses, teacher training programs. So then they become, in a way, in a right centers of excellence. And that is where, through our ITIs, those traditional plumbing, electricians, and even AI, robotics, those sort of concepts can be taught at scale.
A final question in terms of budgetary outlay towards reskilling, do you believe we are at a position where we are all right? Do you need more in terms of setting up more institutions? I'm just trying to gauge the importance given to skilling in terms of and there's a budget coming up.
Yes, well, we always want more, but reskilling has to be done in collaboration with industry. We have recognition of prior learning programs which we are running at scale. For, as you know, PM Vishwakarma is targeting 18 traditional crafts and trades that are followed by people in villages across the country. So in a sense, that's also a reskilling program. People who already have a knowledge, we're giving them the tools to compete at a global level. But you really need industry to invest in their own workforce and to develop their own programs according to their own business dynamic and how they assess the skills that they want from their employees.
Wonderful speaking to you, Jayant. I really do appreciate. Jayant Chaudhary, they're telling us about the potential that exists in India. The fact that skilling is now taking place institutionally at so many levels through various institutions, various centers, budgetary allotment, perhaps more is required in the future. But the future of embracing reskilling and the future of artificial intelligence as part of the India growth story, tremendous. It's technology that has to be imbibed because, frankly, there is no choice.
We're at the World Economic Forum at Davos, and talking to me today here is Shanti Ragaman, the founder of Enable India. And congratulations, Shanti. You're the very few advocates who've been, invited here to speak upon, inclusion. What is that one message that you think from Davos should be going out really strongly, to be talking about the subject of inclusion?
For many years, I think we've wondered, everybody, right, wonders, what are they supposed to do for inclusion? And for the first time here, I was able to speak about the real issue. The real issue is that there is a competency that we have found out called includeability. It's something that Enable India has invented. It's a competency framework which enables people to maximize value of any person. And you do that by normalizing differences, because very often when you see a disabled person, or honestly maybe a woman, or maybe somebody from a foreign country, you don't know how to relate to them. So we've realized over a period of time, every human being has a problem when they meet somebody with a difference. So for me, inclusion, you forget about disability. It'll be automatic. If you can see everybody as somebody with strengths and somebody with solutions for whatever problems they have. So in fact, the message I want to tell everybody is, think about your self-includability. That means, can you see of yourself as a whole with strengths and solutions for your problems? That's it. If we do this well, I don't have to worry about the person with disability.
So not looking at the problem, but looking at the solution. I think that is really, really core. Yeah. Now, you've spoken on multiple panels here. You've interacted with a diverse range of people. What are the takings or the learnings that you take back from here?
There's a lot of talk about artificial intelligence, AI, etc. But what I'm taking back is the message that we have been actually propagating, that there is a world beyond AI. There is a world where there's a new economy that we are actually talking about, and you know about it, right? The purple economy, a purple being the color for disability. And what we are saying is, just like how the healthcare, was not there before the 1800s, and sickness was disabling. So only after the 1800s you had healthcare, and you have a healthcare economy. So the time has come for disability also to be seen from an economic angle, and for businesses and jobs for all citizens to be available here. So the message why I'm telling you this is because when I've been going around talking to people, everybody have been really amazed by this idea, and they're actually saying that we want to hear more about this. So yeah, that's the, so I'm kind of telling the message that I've been telling everybody.
Financial inclusion is a critical theme, which is one of our national priorities, but financial inclusion in the tech space is something which is increasingly impacting the lives of lakhs of people across the country. We've got a wonderful guest with us, Sanjeev Bajaj. Thanks very much for being with us, the CMD of Bajaj FinServ. You've spoken a lot about the ease of use. How is that absolutely critical going forward?
Vishnu, if you try to think about inclusion, inclusion is about access, it's about affordability, and it's about transparency. The benefit we've had in India with the India digital stack is the government has created a whole set of public goods on the digital infrastructure. Look at digital payments. India processes now 16-17 billion digital payments a month, almost as much as the rest of the world put together. What that what that does for access is you can be a small store owner, you can be a guy with a push cart, and payments is no longer an issue. Look at now the account aggregator framework. I believe 120 million people have already signed up for it. We are one of the biggest users of it, where to a customer, you can give access to your bank statements digitally to a loan provider. It's no longer restricted to your own bank and their terms and their interest rates and their duration, and you can get banking products from anyone. So it opens up tremendously financial services to everybody, and more importantly, the common man.
Several years back, we had demonetization and an attempt to move away from currency. It just seems now that willy-nilly we are getting to that stage when people transact more digitally than through physical currency. Going forward in the future, do you believe that that original goal of demonetization would in a sense be achieved in that we won't have physical currency, it will almost always be automated or digital?
Very much so, and in a much nicer manner, because you've not taken the currency away.
Right.
You've given a much better alternative that is easy, that's affordable. It's really no cost actually to the people. And this is the right way to do it.
Let's talk a little bit about our digital backbone, because a lot of what you do has to do with the progress of 5G across the country, smartphone availability. Are we gradually overcoming the digital divide, by which I mean some people who are literate who can use smartphones and many who can't use large phones, smartphones, who are not literate enough to use it? Are we getting to a stage when we are overcoming that?
We are very much moving into that direction with a number of additional supporting features. One, today if you go to our app, it's available in multiple languages. Our communication with customers is today in 17 to 18 languages. We've recently been working with some of our top technology partners from the West on the advanced use of AI, including Gen AI. And while they have a couple of languages ready, what they've done is they've built ports where we know a number of Indian startups are working on individual languages, and you can combine the two. So ease of access, whether language, whether by using visual tools, a lot of our promotional data is now all digital.
Right.
And if I were to see the last 6 months, nearly 80% of our digital marketing is AI enabled.
Right.
So what's happening is access is improving, easy to understand, costs are coming down as well. So when you look at the digital world and the various elements to it, but all of it put together is making a big positive difference.
Beyond chatbots, how are you embracing AI?
So let's look at it on the marketing side. As I just said, our digital content, 80% of it, end-to-end, the AI tool is creating.
Right.
The human just confirms that there is no copyright issues, this, that, and stuff, because there is still some noise. But that's one. Second, we are now, so we do about 4 million loans a month in Bajaj Finance, give or take a little bit, right? We have a pilot running for the last 12 months where there is an AI tool that for customers that want loans and say that have contacted us through various channels, will call them in English, Hindi or Hinglish, talk to them and sell them a loan if they meet our requirements, negotiate pricing, negotiate tenor. It's a completely artificial tool, and you can't realize that it's not a human voice. Of course, again, we have people watching to see are there mistakes, are there errors. But let's not forget that the call center person calling is also making errors.
Right.
On the service side, in the same manner, we've got, but there it's human assisted, because on service, these are existing customers. We have to be 100% right. So, but we are again using AI over there. So whether it's productivity, whether it's revenue, we are clearly seeing use cases across.
I was always curious to know, given the number of loans that you process every single month, huge numbers, and these are small consumer loans in many cases. Is your recovery of the loans efficiently done? We have a certain element of notoriety in our country for larger loans, recovery of loans, people paying back loans not taking place. Is this a problem that you confront with small consumer loans?
Overall, no. Our loan losses have been steadily over the past decade below 1%, very often 60
Is it
bits,
decreasing?
70. In the last 12, 18 months, as RBI had also flagged on certain unsecured small value loans, it had gone up a little bit. It is lower than the peak in the last 18 months, but it is not what it used to be in FY19.
Right.
So that still needs to be normalized. But we are again talking within a tolerance range which we keep very tight.
Right.
So there is some deterioration, but not significant.
And of course, you're
and
insured
it's improving.
for something like this, so it doesn't hit you financially as a company.
Not insured, but it's not a material number.
Right.
Yeah.
But does this remain a concern for the industry? Loan repayments in a country as large as
Not in a
ours?
significant manner, but in pockets it is. As I said, not a big concern, but it was the early stages of larger delinquencies which has got nipped in the bud.
Right.
But for it to normalize will take another couple of quarters.
Right. You've gotten into a big agreement with Airtel. What's that all about?
Very simply, as Bajaj Finance, in the next 12 months, we will be working with about 100 million customers. We cross-sell them various financial products. There are memes which say maybe we try and do a little too much, and we take that very seriously. But we enable a large part of India which would otherwise go to the informal sector. Our ambition in the next 5 years is to take this to 200, 250 million Indians, because that's what we need to do. We need to do business, but we also need to take business to where it needs to be done, where it's not being offered today.
Right.
And we think we can get there 70-80% of the way ourselves, but with large partnerships, and this one with Airtel is the largest ever. It's non-competitive. They have a very large set of customers as well, digitally enabled on their app. We will seamlessly offer them products and services, our entire range. We've been experimenting with a couple of products in the last year, the way we offer to our own customers as well, and together build out a much larger ecosystem where the telecom benefits go to them and the financial benefits are shared in an equitable manner.
Yeah.
But more importantly, increasing access.
Yes, that's so important. Would we be in a finite period of time in our country, given our digital presence, will we be able to move beyond the small money lender, which is the cause of so many woes to people who are financially less privileged? Will your offerings reach poorer people and in a simpler way, in a more friendly manner, and one which is actually less expensive for them in the long run in terms of interest rates and things like that? Is that ultimately the goal?
Very much so. In the last 5 years, Bajaj Finance has added between 17 and 20 million Indians that have entered the formal financial system for the first time, which means they've gone away from the money lender and come in over here. And again, I keep repeating, but the digital infrastructure created is enabling us to do that. So we have to move away from the top 100, 200 cities and keep not keep cherry picking on the low hanging fruit. If we make that effort to go beyond, and it requires a lot of effort, our entire loan origination system for the last 15 years is cloud based. So on a handheld device, person of mine can go to 150,000, 200 stores, town number 4,500 in the country, and suddenly enable it.
Right.
So more and more people have to do that. And again, these steps even that the regulators take or the governments take, when they see excesses happening, important to bring them in, like what happened on the personal loan side, on the microfinance side. But we have to be careful that we don't go overboard, because otherwise if the formal system stops lending,
right,
if they need the money, where will they go? They will go back to the informal system, which is much worse.
Yeah. Which brings me to my last question. Loans are given on the basis of the financial viability of the individual. That brings in CIBIL. All financial institutions, almost all of them, rely on CIBIL. There are concerns raised over a period of time on the speed with which CIBIL needs to actually update the financial standing of an individual. How critical is it for CIBIL as an entity to function equitably and efficiently for you to do your business?
It is very important, because it's a very important source of data for us. But when we do our checks, and because of our history with the customer, see, this year we'll do about 40-45 million loans. 60-65% is repeat to existing customers. So to us, the credit bureau is just one source of data. We've got existing customer data. We've got data of similar customers. So we run an individual risk scorecard for every potential customer.
Right.
But what comes from the credit bureau is verified data. So naturally, the more updated it is, it plays an important role. But for us, it's not the only one.
What are your expectations of the budget?
Very clearly, the government needs to continue on investing further in infrastructure. They're the ones that took the country out of the slowdown. But we need that to continue, because that has a multiplier effect on so many other things, including job creation. We need to incentivize the middle class to spend. There is a slowdown that has happened over there. More on the urban side, luckily rural has picked up, rains have been good, crop has been good as well. We need to align all our government systems for much stronger exports.
Right.
Very simply, can we align our FTAs with the PLI sectors, with our custom duty structure on imports and exports. Just simple things like that will give us a greater boost in efficiency of exports. And I would say lastly, well, there are of course many other things also, but lastly, the GST Council has worked so well between the centre and the states in resolving issues, moving ahead. We need similar councils between the centre and the state for issues like land, water, electricity, labour. And it doesn't mean that one has to override the other. Work together, understand issues, but resolve them. Here in Davos, when I talk to global CEOs, they want to come in, but it's still difficult to do business in India. Gotten better, but that doesn't matter. Other countries are getting even better. So it's a moving target. So we have to, if you do some of these things, and some of it can be announced in the budget, some are outside of the budget issues, it will be a big tailwind for us.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for speaking.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed.
Hello, Moto.
Motorola Edge 50 Pro, world's first AI-powered pro-grade camera.
Mahakumbh, the festival of faith, the world's biggest spiritual festival, the divine dip and the spiritual sangam, a sacred confluence of faith, culture and heritage. NDTV's mega coverage of the Mega Fest. NDTV at Mahakumbh 2025.
Kind attention, please. Delhi Election Metro 2025 is arriving on People's Platform.
Please mind the gap.
BJP or AAP, who will get to the Delhi Secretariat station?
दरवाजे बाईं तरफ खुलेंगे.
Who will Delhi voters open the victory doors for? And who will be shown the door? Can the BJP throw AAP's victory run off track? Or will it be Kejriwal's ticket to win again? Can Congress take the election metro to revival? We will track it all for you. Delhi's decision destination.
Doors will open on the left.
Stay tuned to NDTV for Mega Metro poll coverage.
The future of infrastructure, the future of multi-nodal connectivity, the future of integrated rail, road and air transport. The future is here. Witness groundbreaking innovations and game-changing ideas at the Future Summit on 27 January, exclusively on the NDTV network.
I've been reporting on all issues big and small from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of Maximum City is infectious. I bring in that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti is also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
Anil Kapoor. Proud of all the officers and
Kiara Advani, Sonu Sood,
आज मुझे मौका मिला आपके साथ जुड़ने का।
Vijay Devarakonda,
We are Indians.
Republic Day Special. Best of Jai Jawan, only on NDTV 24/7.
Well, I'm in al-Murtada. This is one of the worst hit areas. When disaster strikes, NDTV World brings you exclusive on-the-ground reports straight from the heart of the action.
A neighborhood in Los Angeles that has been devastated by fire.
I just received an emergency alert extreme, which has come on my phone.
Stay tuned for NDTV World's in-depth coverage as we bring you the real stories from Los Angeles.
This is the al-Murtada area, and there are still fires, and there's a lot of smoke in the area. These houses completely gutted.
This is reporting that matters only on NDTV World.
Mahakumbh, the festival of faith, the world's biggest spiritual festival, the divine dip at the spiritual Sangam, a sacred confluence of faith, culture and heritage. NDTV's mega coverage of the Mega Fest. NDTV at Mahakumbh 2025.
Kind attention, please. Delhi Election Metro 2025 is arriving on People's Platform.
Please mind the gap.
BJP or AAP, who will get to the Delhi Secretariat station?
दरवाजे बाईं तरफ खुलेंगे।
Hello, Moto.
Motorola Edge 50 Pro, world's first AI-powered pro-grade camera.
Welcome. Recently, the capital saw the start of a very critical conversation where students, educationists, cancer warriors, government voices, institutions, NGOs, doctors, community health workers came together to discuss cervical cancer and how it can be prevented. The vision of the conclave, Together Against HPV, the fight against cervical cancer, is to eliminate cervical cancer, which ranks as the second most frequent cancer among women in India. Gracing the occasion was Minister of State of Science and Technology Jitendra Singh, who was in conversation with NDTV's Nikunj Garg.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's very rarely that you discuss or the discourse is about public health in such a high-powered forum. And it's our exceptional good fortune to have Dr. Jitendra Singh with us. Dr. Singh, welcome to NDTV.
Yeah, thank you, Nikunj.
Dr. Singh, let me just ask you first, as far as the priorities of the government in the form of public health, particularly in terms of mass vaccination and preventive health care, the Prime Minister himself has spoken, Finance Minister has allocated budgets, etc. As the Minister of Science and Technology, you have also played a crucial role. How do you see this sort of panning out in the coming years and months as we take our journey towards a developed India?
I think what is most important is, and which is not often discussed, that there has been a huge change of mindset, both on the part of the government approach as well as the citizen level, and that is now being recognized even across the world. Now, India is a country which was never taken seriously, never, for preventive healthcare. And leave alone preventive healthcare, even therapeutic healthcare. a country like India coming out with the first DNA vaccine for COVID. And at a time when the entire world was so apprehensive that look here, India with this population of 120 crore would not be able to take care of itself and will become a kind of a very difficult resource pool for the spread of COVID across the world. There's a huge change which has given us confidence and also changed our mindset.
Dr. Singh, now that we are talking about national immunization program, which your government has actually completely, the paradigm has been reimagined. Threats like cervical cancer and the HPV, and on that also government last year announced an initiative. That they are also now becoming an integral part, or should be made a part of that?
Data reflects that as much as 90 to 95% women who actually have cervical cancer, if you go back, if you try to elicit their history, they have had a history of having suffered from human papillomavirus infection at one time or the other in their life. So if we are able to target them and prevent the occurrence of this virus infection, we could also contribute to reducing their risk of developing cervical cancer. So I think that's important, and it's affordable, it's accessible, and it has a wider spectrum, it's quadrivalent, and once it's a part of the immunization program, it becomes far, far more easier for the common citizens also to avail of it. All that it requires is more of awareness and also reaching out to the people.
One of the problems with this particular disease or this particular challenge of cervical cancer is that there's a lot of taboo associated with it. And that's why a lot of women, particularly in the rural areas, in the Mofussil towns, do not even go for screening. You think more awareness, more platforms like this that we are today looking at NDTV are required to spread that awareness so that more and more women can at least go for screening?
I think that requires a multifarious approach at different levels. As in the context of diabetes, which I deal with, I often say diabetes is too serious to be left to a diabetologist alone. Because you have to have cultural inputs, you have to have social inputs, you have to have also the contribution from the NGOs, and so also is the case over here. Because this, as you said, we have seen parents not disclosing their child being addicted to drugs, and then ultimately themselves having the maximum suffering on themselves itself. So that is one part of it. Preparing the masses, the common citizen, to address the issue without having any inhibitions. A. B. Reaching out by those who are entrusted with the responsibility of providing this facility. And C. As I said right in the beginning, more and more of preventive mindset, preventive healthcare mindset, which has started happening in India, but it was not happening till just about 10 years back.
You have been a practicing doctor yourself for many, many years. What do you think is the role that the medical community can play in terms of raising the awareness about the vaccines related to diseases like cervical cancer?
No, I'm glad most of the organizations or medicos have now taken upon themselves such kind of activities. For example, among the physicians, we have the Association of Physicians of India, which is one of the largest physicians organization in the world, which is founded by Dr. B.C. Roy himself. Then we have the Indian Medical Association, which was again started during the British times. That's why the headquarters still continue to be in Kolkata. What I'm trying to say is that they have now consciously diverted themselves to the public activities. It's no longer confining only to the academic lectures. We have now categorized public lectures, public seminars separately. And now also there's a closer collaboration with government sector by the private sector. They're no longer working in isolation or working in silos. And the NGOs are also coming forward. So I think there's much of awareness happening across the sections of society, and that is going to create an ecosystem which is already started.
I am very grateful that during the middle of a very busy time, during the middle of a parliament session and regular meetings of the cabinet, you could find time to connect with the NDTV viewers, with our audience.
Thank you, Nigoy. This is part of our collective responsibility, duty towards the nation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Also at the conclave, together against HPV, the fight against cervical cancer, was Dr. V.K. Paul, member, Niti Aayog. joining us today to share insights on India's HPV vaccine rollout strategy, the vision, challenges, opportunities, and next steps in India's fight against cervical cancer. We're joined by Dr. V.K. Paul, member Niti Aayog. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today. I think to begin with, as a key architect in India's immunization programs, I want to ask you if you can tell us the status of the HPV vaccine integration into India's national immunization program and what really is planned for the phase of the rollout of the vaccine.
Well, as you're aware, the introduction of HPV vaccine to prevent cancer cervix, the primary prevention of cancer cervix, this commitment was given in the budget speech by the Honorable Finance Minister. The government is working in planning it out. Technical details as well as practical details, practical strategy is being worked out.
Sure. When you say, of course, we know prevention, right? And then it's screening, early diagnosis, treatment, awareness. Do you still think there's a gap? And very often one is aware, one knows they need to go to the doctor, get a checkup, but the action is delayed. How can we bring about that change?
Demand. We should spread the word so that we ask for timely screening and, of course, timely vaccination. That's something that should be known to everybody. And the age at which this should be known and I should feel responsible for is the age after 30 years of age, 30 years, okay? We must also emphasize that once this cancer is detected, it's covered under Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana. Ayushman Bharat, PMJ, covers this condition. Cashless treatment of this cancer is mandated.
I think that's a very important point, which again, there's not much awareness about. Niti Aayog clearly works, as a think tank. And we've seen many states have rolled out the vaccine. There's Sikkim, there's Bihar. But if I can ask you as a strategy, because that's what we're talking about, any lessons that you would like to share which some states have done, not just vaccination, but just generally where prevention, how they're dealing with cervical cancer?
States have demonstrated, let's say, two things. One, that it is possible to scale up HPV vaccine in a systematic, safe manner, but more importantly, they have also surmounted and found ways of addressing the concerns that come up when such a strategy, is truly rolled out, because people have questions, people have misconceptions. At times there is misinformation, infodemic that we've experienced from time to time. So the states have learned, how to technically and for execution, they found the pathways to do it. So the learnings are available in that aspect. But more importantly, when you do it, we should not succumb to undue concerns which do not exist. We should be clear about the, quote-unquote, side effects, if any. And also, we should have confidence in the minds of people that this is something for their good, this is trustworthy, this is based on science, it is safe, and it is in the larger interest of the people.
There can never be one-size-fits approach, especially in a country like ours. How does one create community-based approaches to reach our diverse populations, whether it's the geographical location, cultural, socio-economic? We have a lot of that in our country.
The nation runs the biggest immunization program in the world. And we could, scale up the COVID-19 vaccination program of 220 crore doses because we had the learnings and the foundation and the fabric of universal immunization program. Time has come that we use those capabilities, that experience, that strength, and then take it to scale, both from vaccination point of view as well as screening point of view. But we also not forget that we have a huge base of producing vaccines.
Yes.
We are the vaccine maker of the world, for the world. And therefore, we are in a very unique position of having access to vaccines, our own vaccines, all the way, end-to-end treatment of most of our women who would harbor this disease. And therefore, When all these things have come in place, as society, all stakeholders, media included, should come together
Yes.
to act on all the points.
I think that's really well put. Everybody needs to come together, work together, all the stakeholders in this fight against cervical cancer. You spoke about the ASHA workers. They've been with us. They've been interacting. They've been telling how they've been trained. It's really a pleasure to have you with us on NDTV. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Honor to be here. Thank you.
The future of infrastructure, the future of multi-nodal connectivity, the future of integrated rail, road and air transport. The future is here. Witness groundbreaking innovations and game-changing ideas at the Future Summit on 27 January, exclusively on the NDTV network.
I've been reporting on all issues big and small from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of maximum city is infectious. I bring in that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti is also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
Anil Kapoor.
Proud of all the officers here.
Kiara Advani. Sonu Sood.
आज मुझे मौका मिला आपके साथ जुड़ने का
Vijay Devarakonda.
We are Indians.
Republic Day Special.
The first of the discussions was an overview of why the burden of cervical cancer is so high in our country, India, and what can be done to reduce it.
When we talk about the burden that cervical cancer has on our society, Dr. Tang, I'd like to start with you. And we have the preventive means, we have the vaccines, we have the screening, it can be dealt with. But why is the burden so high then in our country?
Well, in a word, I would say the burden is very high because we are not availing the full benefit of what is already available to us. It's multifactorial. It has to do with the fact that there is a certain amount of vaccine hesitancy. There is a lack of awareness. And I always say this, that there is too much concentration on side effects rather than effects. When you talk about vaccines, unfortunately, the conversation seems to revolve around the potential problems with the vaccine rather than the massive benefits which accrue from vaccination. And I think as a community, and I'm not really talking about doctors alone over here, I'm talking about as a community of doctors, advocates, policymakers, we perhaps failed in a way to drive the narrative in a way which ensures that people are more accepting of the way the vaccine is given, and perhaps have failed to create a demand in a way for the vaccine. So you remember COVID, I'm sure all of us remember COVID.
How can we forget?
We were so eagerly waiting for that vaccine, right? So we have in a way failed to create that demand within the community and tried to, raise the awareness in a way in which a girl, so let's say for example, if we could pitch a campaign to say that the best birthday present you could give at 10 or 11 years of age is the HPV vaccine. We haven't really done things like this to raise awareness at a community level, and perhaps that is one reason why we have this burden. The second reason, of course, is also the gaps we have in our healthcare structure, both in terms of human resource as well as capacity in infrastructure. We need to urgently fill these gaps, but I think it all begins with vaccination. Because if you prevent it in the first place, then you perhaps will have a reduced need of all of this thing going down the line. There is also the problem of screening, and in a way the taboo which surrounds the topic of cervical cancer vaccine. I suppose in a way it's because, in a way, it's associated with sex.
We will be speaking, to the health minister of Sikkim. We'll also be speaking to the health minister of Bihar. But how do we get other states also to include this vaccine as a part of their immunization program? And, we spoke about the COVID drive. How do we do this kind of a drive for this vaccine?
Yeah. So, a lot of important points have been made. One of the key things which is emerging is in terms of creating awareness. And I think unless the government steps in, things are likely to be slow. It is important because if a demand is to be created, simultaneously the product has to be available, the supplies have to be available. So that mismatch should not be occurring. So if we are not just talking about private market, we are talking about everybody. And therefore, this whole issue to come up in the National Routine Immunization Program is critical. Although the government did talk about that they will encourage and facilitate immunization against HPV, but we do not have a very clear direction coming up, policy direction, that as and when the vaccine will be available. But as far as I understand, one of the major bottleneck at the moment is the availability of adequate supply so that it can come in public health. I just told you the requirement. We have an annual birth cohort of girls which is equivalent to 13 million. 1.3, 1.5 crore children are there in every girls. So that is something which is very important. And then if we have to catch up do a catch up, then we have those huge number accordingly. And which I mentioned that even if I go one third, we require huge amount. The second important which is coming up, and I would request those who can afford, that the boys in the family should also be immunized. A gender neutral approach is very necessary. At the moment, our country and a lot of other low and middle income countries are not going in, not so much for finance, it is the non-availability of the vaccine. But a gender neutral approach will take care of a lot of this stigma issue. कि खाली लड़कियों को मिल रहा है, why not boys? लड़कों को क्यों नहीं दे रहे? And the key issue is that it is a sexually transmitted disease. उसकी जगह if we say कि ये cancer से बचाव की है, and which Dr. Tank was very rightly mentioning, I think that's a very important point because a lot of communities have this pushback if you start talking about sexual transmission of this. Another very important point is that I wanted to say this, and that is another, that when we talk about sexually transmitted, and I'm sure the gynecologists must have come across, many husbands throw away their wives if they come to know if she has a cervical cancer, because they think it's a sexually acquired disease, rather than understanding that they are the contributor to that. So, इस सारे के लिए this gender neutral approach is very necessary, but the first approach, because of the limited available of vaccine, we shall be moving for girls only, but those who can afford, I think boys should also be given so that it takes care of. But the key at the back of the whole thing is that unless this program comes in national program, I think movement will remain slow.
The next conversation centered around awareness and education and how they lead to action which is indispensable to elimination of cervical cancer. To translate awareness into action, messaging must be simplified, misconceptions addressed, and accessible resources provided. So in this panel, we focus on how awareness and education leads to action, which is indispensable to elimination. So I think, to begin with, I would like to just ask you about awareness. How do you sensitize them about something so crucial, whether it's vaccination or spreading awareness?
The physician, the treating physician will have to spend time, that one-to-one connect with the parent and the child is must. For that, the important thing is that we'll have to build a relationship, first of all, and then telling about the facts about the vaccine. When we talk about HPV, then that disease is not happening to the adolescent or teen at that very point of time. But when you would tell about the importance of prevention or vaccination at this point of time, and thereby preventing the disease during adulthood, for that the important aspect is that we'll have to tell the facts, what are the numbers, and how does immunizing children at a particular age is much better than immunizing them later. Then aware about the value of investing at this point of time by vaccinating the child or the teen at this point of time, thereby having the good revenues subsequently when the teen grows up. So this is one very important thing. Second thing is to have a trust on us. How? Telling them our own stories, telling them that, okay, our children has also received it. So one is that you will have to tell the facts and figure. Another thing is that you will have to tell them that, okay, this particular disease is really life-threatening.
Yes.
And not at the older age, but even in the young age group also they can suffer. Not only why this is important, but how it is going to help in reducing the healthcare burden, the cost, when we are talking about the disease which is happening at the later age group. Then what is the cost which is going to incur? Not only the cost for the individual family, but also cost for the whole society.
Yeah, so more of a preventive approach
Absolutely,
right
from the beginning, this is important.
So now, Mritu, if I could just come to you, we've heard, from the doctor's perspective, from a school perspective, as an educational institute, you're doing a lot of work on ground. What solution do you think would be sustainable when it comes to awareness? Because that really is the need of the hour for cervical cancer.
There's no one solution for what would work, but when we have gatherings like this, everybody here is from the fraternity. So you have this very knowledgeable discussion about cervical cancer or the vaccine. But if you go into community, it could even be a corporate office. Nobody will know about cervical cancer. There will be nobody who will raise their hands. Nobody would be vaccinated, or less than 1% people would be vaccinated. So the fact is that we need to create more conversation around cervical cancer to even get started. We might have it available at the doctors' clinics. The government might be able to source their 30 million vaccines. But who is coming to take those vaccines? The doctor can only give you awareness if the woman comes to the doctor's office. So how do we get people to the doctor's office? How do we get them to hear that? That is the challenge. And in India, we have to contextualize. We've learned from global practices and we know what works, and there are lots of countries doing it. But in India, aaj bhi, oral, word of mouth is how information passes. So that messaging needs to be standard, that HPV vaccine is cancer prevention. It prevents against 6 types of cancers. We are starting with girls because the cervical cancer burden is high. Cervical cancer vaccine is safe and effective.
Simple
enough
messaging,
information
but
that much.
messaging, yeah.
That is enough information for her. Now the challenge here is that the vaccine is for from 9 to 14, right? If it was like the polio vaccine and the child was below 5, they would be coming to the doctor anyway. Or you don't have a choice. तुम्हें वो देना ही है. Polio drops हम कितनी देते थे अपने बच्चों को. Every time you go to the doctor, they give you polio drops. And then the ASHA worker will come and give you polio drops at home if your child is below 5, right? वो नहीं होगा इसमें. This and the child is 9 and above. So does the child go to a pediatrician? Does the child go and see a gynecologist? Will the child be going to a doctor at that age at all? Vaccines तो खत्म हो जाते हैं by the time they are 5 or 9. So there are lots of challenges. Let's not underestimate the challenge of this vaccine's uptake.
Yeah.
We want to save girls, right? We lose one woman, we say, every 8 minutes. It's not just a statistic, it's a woman's life. By the time I finish speaking this, we would have lost one woman somewhere.
True.
So who's going to make decisions for her? How do we save her life? So we need to all work together. Like we've said so many times, collaboration.
Yes, it has to be together.
Standard messaging and getting it to the right people.
Thank you all so much for coming and sharing your expertise as well as your stories. So it's very clear that awareness is indispensable to elimination of cervical cancer, because only when people are aware will they act. Thank you all so much. Every 8 minutes, a woman in India loses her life to cervical cancer. A devastating reality, but one that is preventable. To combat this, a collective effort is crucial, involving governments, healthcare providers, community leaders, private organizations, and individuals. For more insights on eliminating cervical cancer, including conversations with state health ministers and experts, tune in next week for another episode from our conclave, Together Against HPV, the fight against cervical cancer.
Well, I'm in al-Murtada. This is one of the worst hit areas.
When disaster strikes, NDTV World brings you exclusive on-the-ground reports straight from the heart of the action.
A neighborhood in Los Angeles that has been devastated by fire.
I just received an emergency alert extreme, which has come on my phone. Stay tuned for NDTV World's in-depth coverage as we bring you the real stories from Los Angeles. This is the al-Murtada area, and there are still fires and there's a lot of smoke in the area. These houses completely gutted. This is reporting that matters, only on NDTV World.
Mahakumbh, a festival of faith. The world's biggest spiritual festival. The divine dip at the spiritual Sangam. A sacred confluence of faith, culture and heritage. NDTV's mega coverage of the Mega Fest. NDTV at Mahakumbh 2025.
Kind attention, please. Delhi Election Metro 2025 is arriving on People's Platform.
Please mind the gap.
BJP or AAP, who will get to the Delhi Secretariat station?
दरवाजे बाईं तरफ खुलेंगे.
Who will Delhi voters open the victory doors for? And who will be shown the door? Can the BJP throw AAP's victory run off track? Or will it be Kejriwal's ticket to...
We are being joined by Pranjal Bhandari, who is the Chief India and Indonesia Economist at HSBC. Pranjal, I appreciate your time. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman will be presenting her 8th budget on 1st of February. What are your expectations for the government's fiscal deficit targets in budget 2025, and how do you see the government balancing its growth and inflation objectives in the upcoming budget?
Yeah, look, that's a very good question. It's a very complex backdrop this time. We have a lot of global uncertainties, domestically as well. Growth has been slowing. So what the budget does is going to have important bearing on the economy, at least for the next couple of quarters. Now, the thing is that there are two things we need to worry about. One is growth and the other is macro stability. Macro stability means that everything in your economy should be in order. It should be an economy which is well run. Inflation should be low, fiscal deficit should be low. And from that perspective, the government had announced that it will bring down its fiscal deficit in the next financial year from about 4.9% to about 4.4%. And the question is whether they'll actually do that. Will they walk the talk? My sense is that they will, because if they don't, then there will be a sense that India is not following rules. India is not stable. So from that perspective, I think the fiscal deficit will be reduced from 4.9 to 4.4, as has been promised by the Ministry of Finance for the last couple of years. So we are expecting this fiscal consolidation.
Okay,
the
and
problem with fiscal consolidation,
yes, please, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, the problem with fiscal consolidation is that it hurts growth. You know, you don't want to bring down government spending. But unfortunately, we just have to live with it. These are not easy times. We have to make tough decisions. Our best bet is that from the money that we have, from the fiscal space we have, can we use it more for more growth enhancing expenditure and lessen it for growth, those expenditures that are not as growth enhancing? And I think that is going to be the careful art that the budget tries to do. My sense is that it has been a government which for the last couple of years has focused on capex, capital expenditure, infrastructure, roads, rails, telecom, urban development. And I think that is something that will continue, because in the short run, it creates jobs for people who work in these sectors. It also gives construction industry an impetus. And over the medium term, you have new roads, you have new bridges, so you can create more growth. So our sense is that it will be a capex-oriented budget.
Ms. Bhandari, because the urban consumption has gone down, do you anticipate any significant changes to personal income tax rates or slabs in this budget? And, do you think government can also adjust corporate tax rates or introduce new tax incentives to promote economic growth?
Yeah, so look, that has been by many people, that cut tax rates and give consumers a fillip. But the truth is that this is the government which is really trying to balance its budget and actually bring down the deficit. It's going to be very hard for them to do major cuts in taxes at this point. So while there might be some small tweaks in, personal income tax thresholds, I don't see, a big tax cut being the main focus of this budget. And therefore, our sense is that, if you're thinking consumers are going to get a huge impetus with the tax cut, you might be disappointed. But I must also say that we have a lot of states in India which have been giving a lot of free money to a lot of parts of the economy, to many individuals, cash transfers. And my sense is eventually states will do the consumer stimulus and the center will do the capex stimulus. They'll sort of divvy up this whole responsibility between them. So from that perspective, I do think some small tweaks here and there on taxes, but nothing significantly important to alter the consumer's growth trajectory in the economy.
Okay, so you are giving us a sense that indication perhaps would be that there could be little or no relief for the middle class. But when we look at sector-specific expectations, what are your expectations for allocation of key sectors like infrastructure? As you said, it will be capex oriented. What about healthcare, education in the upcoming budget? And do you think the government need to support particularly the MSME, which has been impacted the most by the global economic uncertainty and also the pandemic?
Yeah, so I think within CapEx, roads and rails have generally been the most important sectors in terms of the money that the government puts forth. My sense is railways will remain a very important sector because a lot of spending, repair, new tracks, all of that is going on. So rails will be one. The other thing I think will be urban infrastructure. In that, the central government and the state governments together have been doing a lot of partnership projects. So I think that is something that will continue. I also think that there will be, some push to affordable housing. It is something that has been, close to the heart of the current Prime Minister for the last several years. And I think, some extra money could be put into that as well. So rails, urban infrastructure, and housing, I think, will be the three important areas for at least the CapEx. And then when it comes to health and education, many times it's not just about putting extra money. It's also about getting your policies right. So, it's almost easy to say that, I'll put money and the sector will revive. So I think what we really need for some of the softer infrastructure is better policies. And I hope that makes way into this budget as well.
And Ms. Bhandari, what do you think will be the big, bold next round of reforms that Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman can initiate?
Look, that's a good question. And, there's a huge opportunity knocking at our door. Supply chains around the world are getting rechecked. China is now producing a lot more in other countries and then selling to advanced economies. We can be a beneficiary of that as well. We weren't really a beneficiary of that 5-6 years ago. There were many other economies who were beneficiaries. We were not. If we can dare to be different when at a time when the world is turning more protectionist, we can actually lower our import tariffs, we can go ahead and sign free trade agreements with many advanced economies, and we can let the currency, our rupee, be a flexible currency, then our sense is that in the next few years, we can benefit a lot from FDI, manufacturing FDI coming into our country in mid-tech sectors, people putting up factories in our country, creating jobs, and then whatever we produce, we actually export it to advanced economies with a made in India written in it, rather than, made in some other country, which has been happening for the last couple of years. This is a very rare opportunity because supply chains getting reject don't happen very often. They happened about 10 years ago and we didn't benefit very much. It's happening again now, and my sense is we can really go ahead and take a lot of benefits from that if we get up some of our policies right. And I really hope the Finance Ministry and the budget focuses on this in the upcoming budget.
Since you say that it's an opportunity knocking at our doors, do you think the government is not able to sense it? And if we missed the bus 10 years ago, then what gives you confidence that we'll not miss the bus again?
Look, I won't put it like that. I think there was a time that we were doing very well, like last 2 years, on many high-tech sectors, right? We were getting FDI into digital startups. Our digital public infrastructure was like doing wondrous work. We were doing very well in some of the high-tech manufacturing, in mobile phones, in pharmaceuticals, automobile parts, and we got good growth for the last 2 years on the back of that. The problem with high-tech is it's not very labor-intensive. So we got the growth, but we didn't get the jobs. And when we didn't get the jobs, we didn't get people out there buying things and making your growth run for longer. What we need now is the same magic we did in high-tech manufacturing 2 years ago to do that same magic in mid-tech manufacturing. Things more like textiles, toys, furniture, footwear, for which supply chains around the world are getting rejigged. And today, if we can attract that FDI into our country, we can actually create more jobs, because these are far more jobs intensive than high tech. So look, there's different courses for different times, and I think the course for now is more mid-tech than high tech.
But Ms. Bhandari, is there a sense also among the economists like you that the big elephant in the room, which is the AI, has to be addressed also through policy? And that should be perhaps the bigger concern if the jobs are being taken away by artificial intelligence.
Well, look, that's a far more complex, discussion to have. As in, I think there will be winners and there will be losers, and the net impact for every country will be very different. So this is a very complex conversation. But I'll sort of simplify it a bit and say that my sense is that in the short run, it could benefit India. In the medium term, there are a lot of uncertainties. And the reason I'm saying in the short run it could benefit India is because many advanced economies are setting up their AI infrastructure. Many MNCs around the world are trying to become AI ready. And the Indian IT can actually support this. It can become a support system for the rest of the world as they try to become more AI ready. So from that perspective, I think we can at least in the beginning do very well. And what we do in the medium term depends on how well we are able to sort of reform ourselves and grapple with basically take new opportunities as they come our way. But I would say that we should look at it positively, at least for now.
Okay, last question, and this is about 3 wishes that you have, that you want to want Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman to address in her budget speech on 1st of February.
Look, one is that you did very well when you were doing capital expenditure. It was one of the best reforms in our budget. It has really improved India's infrastructure. Continue to do that. I think that would be one. I think the number 2 would be that when the whole world is getting protectionist, you go the other way around. Yeah. Don't impose too many import tariffs. Go and reach out to other countries and get bilateral trade agreements, because we have a lot to win in terms of jobs, manufacturing, and growth. That's my second one. I think I'm sort of really passionate about this point in particular. And third is that don't try to do everything. You can't bring down the fiscal deficit and also support growth. What we are very lucky with is that inflation is really falling after a very long time, and RBI, the central bank, can do a lot of the growth heavy lifting. And we actually, just 1 week after the budget, we have the RBI policy meeting. It's the first policy meeting of the new RBI governor, and there's a lot that can be done. Rates can be cut, liquidity can be eased, some of the regulatory tightness can be reduced, and most importantly, rupee can be made more flexible, which is a great way to support industries like services, exports, and so on and so forth. So I would say these are like my top 3.
All right. Ms. Bhandari, we hope to connect with you again on First. So thank you for your time here on NDTV.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Hello, Moto.
Motorola Edge 50 Pro, world's first AI-powered pro-grade camera.
Cashback has low, करते नहीं impress. Life would easy, कितना कुछ free, only with single ID. ये भी free, वो भी free, कितना कुछ free, only with single ID. Get it free with single ID. कितने सारे apps से मुझसे जुड़े, brands मेरे पास है सबसे बड़े. Get it, get it, get it, get it, get it, get it, get it. Only with single ID. Get it free with single ID.
Download any single ID partner app, link your card and earn rewards with top brand.
Get it free with single ID.
I've been reporting on all issues, big and small, from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of maximum city